Hello, Michael. Welcome. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm particularly interested to be speaking with you today about your dad, Oscar Cahén, and the book that the Cahén Archives published in 2017 on the occasion of the artist retrospective curated by our colleague, the late Jeffrey Spalding, for the Beaverbrook Art Gallery. This is the third printing of the book, suggesting that the first two were well received and in fact sold out. That is somewhat of a rarity in Canadian art book publishing. There were several laudatory reviews published when the book came out in late 2017. I'll read two. Robert Fulford, in his review for the National Post, wrote, "Sponsored by his son Michael and dedicated, 'This book is for you, Dad,' is superbly produced and wonderfully complete. A fitting tribute to a talent that flowered briefly, then was suddenly gone." Robert Enright wrote for the Globe and Mail, "Oscar Cahén is an important and game-changing publication that sets a standard for what needs to happen if we are going to become serious about the history of the visual arts in Canada. What should really spook all of us who care about the future of our culture is if we can't find any ghosts from the past who are brilliantly haunting our present." He arrived in Quebec from Europe as an unwilling refugee. In a few short years, by 1943, he begins to broaden the scope of illustration and painting in Canada. He died in 1956, but not before rising to be one of the nation's most celebrated illustrators and leading painters, becoming a major influence on fellow abstract painters in Toronto, with whom he formed the renowned artist collective Painters 11. You were 11 when your father died in a tragic car accident in 1956. He was 40. How did Oscar arrive to Canada as an unwilling refugee? Can you briefly tell us that story?
In the UK, all potential enemy aliens were rounded up. And, well, because of his father's anti-Hitler activities and branded a German, the Germans in the UK included, kids, teenagers, and it was a general roundup. Stories are starting to emerge, and those camps had many honest and decent people who were not enemy aliens at all. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in Oscar's camp, there were 4 Nobel laureates emerged.
Mm. So he makes his way to Canada. He was with his mother in England, right? Fritz his father was in, by now, America, I believe.
Yes. One of the wonderful parts of his being in Quebec was that he got to meet Beatrice Shapiro. She was then Beatrice Fisher. And it's a wonderful story, again, covered in the book, how he was rescued and painted his way out of the camps. That's a really important part of it, I think.
So he spends those first few years in Montreal. He moves to Toronto and becomes one of the rising stars of the Toronto art scene. In the dedication of the book, you say that this book is for you, Dad. And then on the day of his death, you took a call from a reporter at a Toronto newspaper wanting a story. And you say in the dedication that in that single instant, what might have become a moment of pure grief transcended into my first experience of pure purpose to see that my father's uninterrupted story would be told. Is that when it all starts?
I somehow just went to the phone and picked it up. And from that moment, it was a galvanizing experience, because I heard what they said and I understood what they said, but you find yourself on another level, on another frequency. Mm-hmm. That has never left me.
And that moment was the drive to take you to where we are now today.
Yeah.
So take me back a little to the origins of the project. I mean, my understanding is it took at least, 7 to 10 years to put the book together, and that the foundations of all the research really began with the establishment of the Cahén Archives some years prior to the publication of the book.
So 83, 84, with the exhibition at the Art Gallery in Toronto, I started to realize that the work had to be recatalogued,
Again, you had to repatriate, in a sense, a lot of work from the United States, which was in storage somewhere in Florida.
Just about everything, yeah.
The people you brought together are all art world luminaries. Karen Wilkham, the late Jeffrey Spalding, Adam Welsh from the National Gallery of Canada, Jolene Grove, the art historian and scholar, Roald Nasgard, several well-known conservators all contributed to this book. I mean, that seems to me no easy task to grab, to enthuse these people and seduce them into somehow becoming involved in this project. How did you do that?
It was a combination of, it was slightly contagious. You know, once the ball, there was a snowball effect once it started rolling, and you know, Rosemary, who did the editing, introduced Cy Strom, or Cy Strom knew Jolene, and we ended up with, you know, a head start. There were gaps that needed to be filled. And in fact, one of the key authors you introduced.
Then comes the actual, you know, the work gets done, the research is done, the writing is done. But then there's the actual printing, publishing of the book, the technical aspects of the book. And it seems to me you went to great lengths to publish like an extraordinary physical object. The paper itself, which is called Mohawk via Vellum, just blew my mind when I first opened the book and felt that beautifully sensual, physical kind of stock. And it just drew you into the book.
You know, the background, which we've talked about in the past, of Oscar's Skira book collection, pretty well everyone they published, they were quite tactile. They were beautifully prepared, and there was a production quality to them as well as the scholarship. And so I had a bit of a standard back from my childhood, but what I noticed was that art books, the in vivo experience is just gone. The in-life experience, it's like listening to Pavarotti on an old tape cassette. It's just not there, right? You know what, you have to kind of interpret the beauty. And when an art book, you know, one sizes all the images, where there's no depth, and where the standard glossy paper makes you have to look through the glass, let's say, and see the work. I knew that it was possible to produce very high quality work on paper. The problem was, how do you do it at scale? And one of the things I could see is that when you, in standard offset printing and what you see in the main printing houses, it's all loss. There's an image, there's a loss, there's ink to paper, there's a loss. And I thought, well, we're just not going to accept that.
How did you come to choose the image for the slipcover of the book? It's so perfect. It's just so vibrant and such a perfect image. How did that come to be? It's a great choice.
So we started, first of all, we think this is the designer. We think this is the right form factor for the book, given the content and what we're trying to do. So we designed it from the inside out. And then I had the problem of finding a work that we didn't crop or didn't have white space around it. And as it happens, Still Life was precisely the measurements.
Yeah, and it's a great painting. Can you show the cover to the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, so this is actually right off the press. So this prints in B5 format, and so it's 2 up and 2 up.
It's also, I love the choice of image for the cover, because Still Life, I think, is from 1953, and it really does show Oscar's brilliance in using color, that great pink that he was known for, the reds and blues that he really, I think, pushed his fellow abstract painters to reconsider how color could be used. And I think he had a huge influence. We are, as you know, working toward an exhibition in November, actually on November 26th, which is the anniversary of Oscar's death. the book will be available at that moment, but it will be available next week or the following week. We should be getting books pretty soon, right?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, shipping, the first shipping orders are in, so.
Feely Fine Arts and Trépanier Bear have partnered together to do a series of exhibitions, both here in Calgary and in Toronto. There's something very exciting about doing this exhibition at Pat's gallery, and that is Pat is the daughter of Bud Feely, who founded Feely Fine Arts, but prior founding Feely Fine Arts, Bud established a gallery in Toronto called the Park Gallery. And they featured a very famous, well-known painting, one of the last paintings that Oscar did, titled The Warrior. And that painting was shown in the 50s and 59 at the Park Gallery, owned by Bud Feely. Now that painting in November will be shown at Pat's, at the Center Gallery, in a show that we are co-curating. And it is extremely exciting. This is a major work, and it will be the painting that anchors the exhibition. And we're excited in the sense that it's a coming home for this painting. Anything else you'd like to say about the book?
I think it's one of the dedications that I did in the book was the old proverb, if you want to travel fast, travel alone. If you want to travel far, travel together. It was so important to have this great group of collaborators, and they're all in their own way unique.
So Michael, thank you for taking this on, and you are living a rich life, and you've had this amazing project in front of you since your dad passed away many years ago when you were 11, and it's I think it's an extraordinary kind of accomplishment to have brought this book to reality and Oscar's life back into our memory.
Thank you for organizing this. It's well done.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Okay.
Peace.
Ciao.